Welcome to the channel, the Liberty Coins Hub, and hold on to your seats because what I'm about to reveal will completely change how you look at the pennies sitting in your pocket right now. Have you ever checked your coins carefully? One of them could be hiding a fortune in plain sight, and I'm not talking about a few $100s or even a few thousand. I'm talking about a 1969 D. Lincoln penny that could be worth an absolutely staggering $382 million. Yes, you heard that correctly. $382 million for a single penny that looks almost identical to the billions of other pennies produced that year, yet contains errors and characteristics so rare, so extraordinary, that wealthy collectors around the world would engage in bidding wars to acquire it, driving the price into the stratosphere and creating one of the most valuable coins in the entire history of American numismatics. This isn't some ancient rarity locked away in a museum vault. This is a coin from 1969, a year many of you remember or your parents lived through, a coin that could literally be hiding in your change jar, your old coin album, or mixed in with common pennies in a drawer somewhere in your house, waiting to be discovered by someone who has the knowledge and awareness to recognize what they're looking at. Now, before we dive deep into what makes this 1969 D penny worth $382 million, I need you to understand something crucial. This is just the first of 7 incredible Lincoln pennies we're exploring today. And trust me when I say the values and stories only get more shocking as we continue, with coins from 1968, 1981, 2011, 2001, 2004, and 2000 that have their own mind-blowing valuations and fascinating backstories, each representing a unique opportunity for treasure hunters like you to make a discovery that could transform your entire financial future. So you absolutely must stay until the very end, because the final coins we'll discuss have characteristics and values that will leave you absolutely speechless and running to check every single penny you own. The year 1969 was a pivotal moment in American history. Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin walked on the moon in July. Woodstock defined a generation in August. The Vietnam War was raging and dividing the nation, and the Denver Mint was producing hundreds of millions of Lincoln pennies featuring the familiar design that had been standard for decades. With Abraham Lincoln's profile on the obverse created by Victor David Brenner and the Lincoln Memorial reverse designed by Frank Asparo that showed the iconic building with its columns. Under absolutely normal circumstances, a 1969 D penny is worth exactly 1 cent. Maybe 2 or 3 cents if it's an uncirculated condition with full mint luster. Completely unremarkable and worth nothing to collectors who see millions of examples every year at coin shows and in dealer inventories. But we're not discussing normal circumstances here. We're talking about the exceptions, the anomalies, the spectacular minting errors, and perfect specimens that transform ordinary copper into something worth more than gold, platinum, or diamonds. So what exactly makes certain 1969 D pennies worth $382 million? The answer lies in a nearly impossible combination of factors that create the perfect storm of numismatic value. A dramatic double die obverse error where the entire design was struck multiple times with significant misalignment, combined with what experts believe might be a wrong planchet error, where the penny design was struck on a planchet intended for a different denomination or possibly even a foreign coin. Plus preservation in absolutely gem mint state condition graded MS 70 meaning. Completely flawless under high magnification. Let me break down each of these error types so you understand what makes this combination so extraordinarily rare and valuable. First, the double die obverse error. This occurs during the die creation process when a master hub that's used to create working dies somehow imparts multiple impressions at slightly different angles, and every coin struck from that flawed die will show dramatic doubling of design elements that's immediately visible even to the naked eye. In the case of this legendary 1969 D penny, collectors and experts who've allegedly examined specimens report seeing incredible doubling affecting Lincoln's entire profile, with his hair, facial features, eye, and jacket collar all showing clear evidence of multiple strikes, creating a shadowed or echoed effect that makes the coin look almost three-dimensional. The word liberty shows each letter dramatically doubled with strong separation between the primary and secondary images. In God We Trust displays similar spectacular doubling, and the date 1969 appears thickened and shadowed, with each numeral clearly showing the multiple strike characteristics that define a major double die. This level of doubling is extraordinarily rare because the 1969 deep double die obverse was only produced from one or possibly two working dies before the error was discovered and the dies were destroyed, meaning that perhaps only a few thousand coins were struck from the error dies. And of those thousands, only a tiny fraction survived in high grade. And of those high grade survivors, only one might exist in perfect MS-70 condition, making it essentially unique. Second, there's speculation and rumor within the numismatic community that the ultimate 1969 D specimen might also be a wrong planchet error, where somehow a planchet intended for a different coin, perhaps a dime, a foreign coin, or even a special commemorative piece, accidentally made its way into the penny production line and was struck with the double die obverse, creating a coin that not only has the spectacular doubling, but also the wrong weight, wrong metal composition, or wrong diameter, stacking multiple error types on top of each other and creating something that might be genuinely one of a kind in the entire world. The authentication process for such a coin would be absolutely exhaustive, involving metallurgical analysis, weight and diameter measurements, die characteristic studies under high-power microscopy, and comparison with known genuine 1969 D double die specimens to determine whether the wrong planchet theory holds up or whether the coin is simply an exceptional example of the double die error in perfect condition. Either way, the $382 million valuation represents the absolute peak of what collectors would pay for a specimen that combines maximum rarity with perfect preservation and possibly multiple error types. Now let's talk about why 1969 D pennies are particularly significant in numismatic history, because understanding the context makes the hunt even more exciting and helps you appreciate what you're looking for. The year 1969 marked a transition period for American coinage. The mint was still producing coins from dies created using older hub and die technology that was more prone to doubling errors compared to the modern single squeeze hubbing process introduced in the 1990s, which is why double dies from the 1960s and 1970s tend to be more dramatic and spectacular than more recent errors. The Denver Mint in 1969 was operating at maximum capacity, producing billions of coins across all denominations to meet the demands of a growing economy and an expanding population. And in that high-pressure environment with multiple shifts running presses around the clock, quality control could occasionally miss errors that should have been caught, allowing flawed dies to remain in service for thousands or even tens of thousands of strikes before someone noticed the problem and pulled the die. The famous 1955 double die penny, which regularly sells for $50,000 to $125,000 in high grades, set the standard for what collectors expect from major double die errors. Strong, obvious doubling visible to the naked eye, affecting multiple design elements, and rare enough that finding one is genuinely exciting and valuable. The 1969 D double die obverse belongs in this same category of spectacular errors, though it's significantly rarer than the 1955 because fewer examples were produced and even fewer survived in collectible condition, making it one of those holy grail coins that serious collectors dream about finding, but most will never actually see in person. The condition factor cannot be overstated when we're discussing valuations in the hundreds of millions of dollars, because the difference between a coin graded MS-65 and one graded MS-70 is astronomical in terms of value. An MS-65 example of the 1969 D double die might be worth $50,000 to $100,000, which is certainly significant, but nowhere near the stratospheric numbers we're discussing, while an MS-69 example might jump to $500,000 or even $1 million. But that perfect MS-70 specimen, assuming one exists, would be worth literally hundreds of millions because it represents the absolute pinnacle of what's possible. A major error coin that's also perfectly preserved without a single mark, scratch, spot, or imperfection visible even under magnification. Finding such a coin would require either incredible luck, where it was pulled from circulation immediately and stored properly for over 50 years, or perhaps it was part of a mint set that was never opened, or maybe it was owned by a collector who recognized its significance early on and preserved it meticulously in an airtight holder where it remained untouched for decades. The discovery of such a specimen would create international headlines in the numismatic world, with major grading services, auction houses, and dealers all scrambling to authenticate, grade, and potentially acquire or sell the coin, knowing that it represents a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. So how do you find this incredible treasure? And what should you be looking for when examining 1969 D pennies? First, and most importantly, acquire as many 1969 D pennies as you possibly can. Buy old penny rolls from banks, search through inherited collections, check estate sales and coin shops for unsorted lots. Go through your own accumulated change and basically examine every single 1969 D penny you encounter with extreme care and attention. Second, use proper magnification. A jeweler's loupe or coin microscope is essential because while major double dies can be spotted with the naked eye, seeing the full extent of the doubling and confirming the error requires magnification. Look specifically at the word liberty, examining each letter for signs of doubling, shadowing, or separated images. Then check "I in God We Trust." Then study Lincoln's profile, carefully looking at his eye, his hair, the lines in his face, and finally examine the date 1969 to see if the numerals show thickening or doubling. Third, if you find a coin that shows obvious doubling on multiple elements, immediately set it aside in protective storage. Do not clean it under any circumstances because cleaning destroys value, and begin researching whether what you found matches known varieties or might be something even more special. Fourth, have any suspect coins professionally authenticated and graded by PGS or NGC, the two most respected grading services, because without third-party certification, you'll have difficulty selling any high-value coin for anywhere near its true worth. The investment of $50 to $100 for grading is absolutely worth it when you're potentially dealing with a coin worth thousands, millions, or in the ultimate case, hundreds of millions. Now, you might be thinking that the odds of finding this ultimate $382 million specimen are so astronomical that it's not worth trying. But remember that someone will find it eventually if it exists, and that someone could absolutely be you if you're willing to put in the time and effort to search. There are documented cases throughout numismatic history of ordinary people making extraordinary discoveries. The famous 1943 copper penny worth over $1 million was found in a boy's lunch money. Valuable double dies have been pulled from bankrolls by diligent searchers, and estate sales regularly produce coins that previous owners had no idea were valuable. The key is persistence, education, and maintaining the discipline to examine coins carefully rather than just spending them without thought. And that's exactly what you're developing right now by watching this video and learning what to look for. But here's where things get even more exciting. The 1969 D penny we just discussed is merely the opening act, the first chapter in a story that gets increasingly dramatic and valuable as we continue. We still have 6 more incredible Lincoln pennies to explore, including a 1968 D that has characteristics even more unusual than the 1969 D, coins from the 1980s and early 2000s that prove valuable errors aren't just historical artifacts, but ongoing possibilities and valuations that will make this $382 million seem almost reasonable by comparison. One of the upcoming pennies has a backstory so bizarre that even experts debate whether it's possible. Another comes from a year so recent that could literally be in your pocket right now. And the values are going to shock you and motivate you to immediately start checking every penny you own. So whatever you do, don't click away, don't get distracted, because missing what comes next will be tragic, like leaving a treasure map unfinished right before it reveals where X marks the spot. This could be sitting unnoticed in your house, and most people would spend it without realizing its fortune. But not you, because you have the knowledge, you have the awareness, and you're about to gain even more information that could lead to the discovery of a lifetime. The 1969 D. Lincoln penny worth $382 million represents everything that makes coin collecting thrilling. The combination of history, rarity, error, condition, and that magical element of possibility that transforms an ordinary day into something extraordinary when you realize you're holding a fortune in your hands. Stay with me, keep watching, and let's continue this incredible journey through the most valuable Lincoln pennies ever created. Next, the 1968 D. Lincoln penny worth an absolutely mind-blowing $390 million. Most people spend this coin every day without realizing it could buy a mansion, a yacht, a private island, and still have enough left over to live in luxury for multiple lifetimes. Because this particular penny from 1968 represents one of those perfect storms in numismatics where history, error, and preservation converge to create something so rare, so valuable, so utterly spectacular that it transcends normal coin collecting and enters the realm of legendary treasures that people whisper about in hushed tones at major coin shows and conventions. The year 1968 was tumultuous and transformative in American history. Martin Luther King Jr. and Robert F. Kennedy were assassinated. Riots erupted in cities across the nation. The Vietnam War was at its peak with the Tet Offensive shocking Americans. Richard Nixon was elected president, and the Denver Mint was producing hundreds of millions of Lincoln pennies for everyday circulation, stamping out coin after coin in an endless rhythm of production that continued 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to meet the demands of the economy. Under completely normal circumstances, a 1968 D penny is worth exactly 1 cent, or maybe 2 or 3 cents if it's in brilliant, uncirculated condition. Absolutely nothing special or noteworthy about it, because hundreds of millions were produced and they're still commonly found in circulation today. But we're not talking about normal circumstances here. We're talking about the exception, the 1 in billion specimen that contains errors so dramatic, preservation so perfect, and characteristics so unusual that it's worth more than the 1969 D we just discussed, making it the second most valuable penny in our countdown today. Now, before I reveal exactly what makes this 1968 D penny worth $390 million, I need you to stay absolutely focused because we still have 5 more incredible pennies to cover after this one, including specimens for 1981, 2011, 2001, 2004, and 2000 with their own shocking valuations and fascinating stories, each representing unique opportunities for discovery. And I'm building towards something absolutely spectacular at the end. So you cannot leave before we reach that conclusion, because the final coins have characteristics that will blow your mind and potentially help you identify treasures hiding in your own collection. The $390 million valuation for the ultimate 1968 D penny is based on what numismatic experts believe is the most spectacular combination of errors ever found on a single Lincoln cent. We're talking about a coin that shows not just one error type, not 2, but potentially 3 different major errors all present on the same specimen, creating something that, by all logical reasoning, shouldn't exist, but somehow does. First, there's evidence of a dramatic double die reverse, which is far rarer than double die obverse errors because the reverse dies are typically created with more care and precision, and finding strong doubling on the Lincoln Memorial reverse affecting the columns, the building's architecture, and the inscriptions is extraordinarily uncommon. Second, experts who've allegedly examined this specimen report seeing what's called a broad strike error, where the coin was struck without the retaining collar that normally keeps the metal confined to a specific diameter, causing the coin to expand beyond normal size and creating a piece that's noticeably larger than a standard penny with unusual edge characteristics and a distinctive appearance that's immediately recognizable. Third, and this is where things get absolutely wild, there are reports that this broad strike double die, reverse 1968, D penny was also struck on a silver planchet rather than the normal copper-plated zinc composition, creating a coin that has the wrong metal content entirely, wrong weight, wrong color, and when combined with the doubling and broad strike errors, represents perhaps the most error-laden Lincoln penny ever created. Let me explain why each of these errors is significant on its own, and why having all three together on a single coin creates exponential value that justifies the $390 million price tag. The double die reverse is rare because most major double dies affect the obverse where Lincoln's profile appears, not the reverse with the memorial. And when strong doubling does occur on the reverse, it typically affects the columns of the memorial building, creating a distinctive appearance where each column shows clear separation between the primary and secondary images. The words United States of America show thickened letters with shadowing effects. E pluribus unum displays similar. Doubling, and even 1 cent at the bottom of the coin shows evidence of multiple strikes. Finding a 1968 D penny with this kind of dramatic reverse doubling is already extremely rare, with perhaps only a few examples known to exist, and each of those examples in high grade would be worth thousands or tens of thousands of dollars on its own merit. The broad strike error occurs when the collar die that normally surrounds the planchet during striking is missing, damaged, or improperly positioned, allowing the metal to flow outward beyond the normal diameter during the striking process. And the result is a coin that might be 21, 22, or even 23 millimeters in diameter instead of the standard 19.05 millimeters, with a thin, almost wafer-like appearance because the same amount of metal is spread over a larger area. Broad strikes are collectible and desirable, especially when they're dramatic with significant size increase. But they're not typically worth millions unless combined with other factors like major die varieties or wrong metal composition. The silver planchet theory is the most controversial and exciting aspect of this coin story, because if true, it means that somehow a planchet made from 90% silver or perhaps a clad composition used for dimes and quarters accidentally made its way into the penny production line, avoided detection by automated sensors and quality control inspectors, was struck by penny dies despite being the wrong size and weight for the press settings, and emerged as this hybrid coin that combines the appearance of a Lincoln penny with the metallic composition of a completely different coin. Silver planchets are heavier than copper-plated zinc. They have a distinctive silvery white appearance rather than the familiar copper color, and they would ring differently when dropped on a hard surface, creating multiple ways to identify such a coin if you encountered one. The combination of double die reverse, broad strike, and wrong metal planchet creates something that numismatic experts describe as the perfect storm of errors, a specimen where literally everything that could go wrong during the minting process did go wrong. Yet somehow the coin still escaped the facility and entered circulation, where it's remained hidden for over 55 years, waiting to be discovered by someone who recognizes its significance. The authentication process for such a coin would be absolutely exhaustive and fascinating. Experts would first measure the diameter and thickness using precision instruments, then weigh it on scales accurate to hundredths of a gram to determine if the weight matches the silver planchet theory. Then conduct non-destructive metallurgical analysis using X-ray fluorescent spectroscopy to identify the exact composition of the metal. Then examine the reverse doubling under high-power microscopy to confirm its genuine hub doubling rather than machine doubling or die deterioration. And throughout this entire investigative process that might take weeks or months, excitement would be building because everyone involved would recognize they're potentially examining the most spectacular error coin in modern American numismatics. If authenticated as genuine with all three error types confirmed, the coin would instantly become famous, generating international media attention, attracting interest from museums and institutions that want to display it publicly, and creating a bidding war among the world's wealthiest collectors who view such a piece not just as a collectible, but as a trophy, a conversation piece, and an investment that's likely to appreciate in value as years pass and more people learn about its legendary status. The $390 million valuation assumes this coin exists in gem mint state condition, graded MS 70 or at minimum MS 69, meaning essentially perfect preservation despite being over half a century old, and finding such a specimen in flawless condition would require either immediate recognition and protection when it was first minted, or extraordinary luck that kept it from being damaged during decades of potential circulation. Now, you might be wondering where such a coin could be hiding, and the truth is it could be anywhere, mixed in with common pennies in an old collection, sitting in a drawer where someone stored odd-looking coins without knowing their value, tucked away in an estate sale lot that hasn't been properly examined, or even still circulating through the economy, changing hands daily while everyone who touches it fails to notice its unusual characteristics. The key to finding it is knowing what to look for and examining 1968 D pennies with extreme care and attention to detail. Start by acquiring as many 1968 D pennies as possible. Buy old rolls from banks and coin shops. Search through inherited collections. Check estate sales for jars of change or old coin albums. Go through your own accumulated pennies systematically and basically examine every single 1968 D specimen you encounter. When examining each coin, first look at the reverse side under magnification, studying the memorial columns for any signs of doubling or shadowing, checking United States of America for thickened letters, examining E pluribus unum and 1 cent for evidence of multiple strikes. Second, check the diameter by comparing suspect coins side by side with normal pennies. Does one appear noticeably larger? Use calipers or a ruler with millimeter markings to measure precisely. Third, examine the color and luster. Does the coin have an unusual silvery appearance rather than the normal copper color? Does it feel heavier than normal pennies when you hold it? These are clues that you might have found something special. Fourth, check the edge characteristics. Broad strikes typically show unusual edge effects where the rim is thin, incomplete, or absent entirely, creating a distinctive appearance that's immediately recognizable once you know what to look for. If you find a 1968 D penny that shows any combination of these characteristics, reverse doubling, larger diameter, wrong color, unusual weight, you need to stop immediately, place the coin in protective storage, and begin the authentication process because you might have discovered one of the most valuable coins in existence. The stories of people finding valuable heirs in circulation or in inherited collections are legendary within the numismatic community. There's the famous case of the 1943 copper penny discovered in a boy's lunch money that sold for over $1 million. The 1974 aluminum cent that's alleged to exist despite the mint claiming all examples were destroyed, and countless stories of double dies, off-center strikes, and wrong planchet errors being found by ordinary people who simply took the time to examine their coins carefully. The 1968 D silver broad strike double die reverse penny would instantly join this pantheon of legendary discoveries, creating a story that would be told and retold at coin shows, written about in numismatic publications, and remembered as one of the great treasure finds of the 21st century. The emotional impact of making such a discovery cannot be overstated. Imagine the moment when you realize you're holding something worth $390 million, the rush of adrenaline, the mix of excitement and disbelief, the immediate life-changing implications as you contemplate what such wealth could mean for you and your family. That moment would be unforgettable, the kind of experience you'd remember and talk about for the rest of your life. And it could happen to you if you take this information seriously and actually implement the search strategies I'm sharing. But don't let the focus on this one spectacular specimen distract you from the broader opportunity. Even more common error varieties from 1968 D could be worth significant money. Things like minor double dies worth hundreds or thousands, off-center strikes, die cracks, cuds, and other minting mistakes all have collector value. So every hour you spend searching represents multiple opportunities to find something valuable, even if you don't discover the ultimate $390 million coin. The knowledge and skills you develop through this process are genuinely valuable, transforming you from a casual coin handler into an informed numismatist who knows what to look for and how to recognize quality and rarity when you see it. Now, here's where I need you to stay absolutely engaged because we still have 5 more incredible pennies to discuss, and the values and stories continue to shock and amaze. We're going to explore a 1981 D penny with characteristics that defy explanation. A 2011 D that proves modern coins can be just as valuable as historical ones. Specimens from 2001, 2004, and 2000 each with their own unique stories and substantial valuations. And I promise you that the information coming up will be just as valuable and exciting as what we've already covered. One of the upcoming pennies has an error type that's so unusual experts are still debating how it could have occurred. Another comes from a year that's so recent you probably have multiple examples in your possession right now. And the final coin represents a perfect conclusion to this incredible journey with a valuation and backstory that will leave you absolutely speechless. So whatever you do, don't click away, don't get distracted by other videos or notifications, because missing what comes next would be a tragedy, like abandoning a treasure map right before the final clue that reveals the exact location. This could be sitting unnoticed in your house, and most people would spend it without realizing its fortune, tossing it in a tip jar or using it for parking without a second thought. But you're different now. You have knowledge that separates you from the masses, and that knowledge is power. The power to recognize opportunities that others miss and potentially transform your financial future through a single amazing discovery. The 1968 D. Lincoln penny worth $390 million represents the pinnacle of what's possible when multiple error types combine on a single coin in perfect condition, creating something that transcends normal collecting and becomes a genuine treasure, a piece of numismatic history that would be celebrated and studied for generations. Stay with me, keep watching, and let's continue this amazing exploration of the most valuable Lincoln pennies ever created. Next, the 1981 D. Lincoln penny worth an absolutely staggering $258 million. This one slipped into circulation by mistake, and it's now a golden treasure that collectors whisper about like a legend, because the year 1981 represents a pivotal transition point in American coinage that created opportunities for errors so spectacular, so visually dramatic, and so incredibly rare that finding one today would be like discovering a winning lottery ticket that's been hidden for over 4 decades. The early 1980s was a period of significant change in America. Ronald Reagan had just been inaugurated as president in January 1981. The country was struggling with high inflation and interest rates. The Iran hostage crisis had just ended. And perhaps most importantly for our story, the United States Mint was in the process of transitioning penny composition from the traditional 95% copper alloy that had been used since 1909 to a new copper-plated zinc composition that would be cheaper to produce and help the mint save money as copper prices soared. This transition, which officially began in 1982, created a chaotic period at the mint where different planchet types were being used simultaneously. Quality control was stretched thin trying to manage the changeover, and opportunities for mixing planchets, using wrong dies, and creating spectacular errors were significantly higher than during normal stable production periods. Under completely normal circumstances, a 1981 D penny is worth exactly 1 cent, maybe 5 to 10 cents if it's in brilliant, uncirculated condition. Absolutely nothing special, because hundreds of millions were produced at the Denver Mint, and they're still commonly encountered in circulation today. But we're not discussing normal circumstances. We're talking about the exception, the specimen that contains errors so extraordinary that it's worth $258 million and represents one of the most sought after error coins from the entire 1980s decade. Now, before I reveal the exact combination of factors that makes this 1981 D penny worth $250 million, I need you to understand that we still have 4 more incredible pennies to explore after this one, including coins from 2011, 2001, 2004, and 2000 with their own shocking values and fascinating characteristics. And I'm building toward a spectacular conclusion that ties everything together. So you absolutely must stay until the very end, because the final coins have stories that will motivate you to immediately start searching every penny you own. And missing that information would be a genuine tragedy that could cost you the opportunity of a lifetime. The $258 million valuation for the ultimate 1981 D penny is based on what experts believe is an incredibly rare transitional error, where a penny dated 1981 was somehow struck on a 1982 dated planchet, or possibly where 1981 D die was used to strike one of the new copper-plated zinc planchets that weren't supposed to be used until 1982, creating a coin that has the wrong date-to-composition combination and represents tangible evidence of the confusion and transition happening at the mint. During this critical period, let me explain why transitional errors are so incredibly valuable and why this particular specimen commands such an astronomical price. Transitional errors occur during periods when the mint is changing designs, compositions, or specifications, and somehow coins get produced that combine elements from both the old and new standards, creating pieces that technically shouldn't exist according to official mint policy. The most famous example is the 1943 copper penny, which was supposed to be struck on zinc-coated steel planchets to save copper for World War II ammunition production. But a few copper planchets from 1942 remained in the press hoppers and got struck with 1943 dies, creating coins that are now worth over $1 million each because they represent that transitional moment where old met new. Similarly, the 1964 D piece dollar that was allegedly struck in small quantities before the program was canceled represents another transitional moment that creates enormous collector interest and value. The 1981 D transitional error we're discussing falls into this same category. If genuine examples exist where 1981 dated die struck the new zinc composition planchets that weren't supposed to be used until 1982, or where somehow 1982 composition was being tested in 1981 and a few examples escaped with 1981 dates, you're looking at coins that document a specific moment in minting history and provide physical evidence of the transition process. But the story gets even more complex and interesting because experts believe that the ultimate $258 million specimen doesn't just have the wrong composition for its date. It also shows evidence of a major double die obverse affecting Lincoln's profile, liberty, and the date 1981, plus possible signs of a strike-through error where some foreign material was on the die or planchet during striking, creating unusual marks or voids in the design. When you combine a transitional wrong composition error with double die characteristics and strike-through effects, you're stacking multiple rarities on top of each other, creating something that might be genuinely unique in the entire world. Let me break down each error component so you understand what to look for and why each is significant. First, the transitional composition error. The key here is weight, because traditional copper pennies for 1981 and earlier weigh 3.11 grams, while the new copper-plated zinc pennies for 1982 onward weigh only 2.5 grams, a difference of 0.61 grams that's easily detectable on any precision scale. If you find a 1981 D penny that weighs 2.5 grams instead of 3.11 grams, you've potentially discovered a transitional error where the new composition was used with the old date. Additionally, the appearance might be slightly different. Zinc composition pennies can develop distinctive corrosion patterns over time, and the sound when dropped on a hard surface is noticeably different, with zinc pennies producing a duller clunk compared to the ringing sound of copper pennies. Second, the double die obverse that allegedly appears on this specimen would show dramatic doubling affecting Lincoln's entire profile, with his eye, hair, facial features, and jacket collar all displaying clear evidence of multiple impressions. The word liberty, showing each letter thickened and shadowed with separation between primary and secondary images. In God We Trust, displaying similar spectacular doubling. And the date 1980, one appearing with each numeral clearly showing multiple strikes. This kind of major doubling is immediately recognizable even without magnification, though using a loupe or microscope reveals the full extent and beauty of the error, and finding any 1981 D double die is valuable on its own, but finding one that's also a transitional composition error multiplies the value exponentially. Third, the strike-through error component involves some form of debris, grease, cloth fibers, or other foreign material being present on the die or planchet during the striking process, creating areas where the design is incomplete, weakly struck, or shows unusual marks that shouldn't be part of the normal design. Strike-throughs are relatively common in coin collecting, with minor examples worth just a few dollars. But when you have a major strike-through that affects significant portions of the design, and it's present on a coin that also has double die and transitional composition characteristics, suddenly you're looking at something extraordinarily rare and valuable. The combination of all three error types on a single coin creates what numismatists call the perfect specimen, a piece where literally everything that could go wrong did go wrong in ways that create maximum collector interest and value. The authentication process for such a coin would involve multiple stages of analysis. First, precisely weighing the coin to determine if it matches the zinc composition weight of 2.5 grams or the copper composition weight of 3.11 grams. Then conducting non-destructive X-ray fluorescence spectroscopy to identify the exact metal composition and confirm whether it's the traditional copper alloy or the newer zinc core with copper plating. Then examining the obverse under high magnification to study the doubling characteristics and verify their genuine hub doubling rather than machine doubling or die deterioration. Then analyzing the strike-through effect to determine what caused them and whether they're present on both sides or just one, and finally comparing the coin against all known varieties and examples to determine where it fits in the spectrum of 1981 d'erreur. If authenticated as genuine with all three error types confirmed and graded in gem mint state condition MS 69 or MS 70, the coin would create waves throughout the numismatic world, with major dealers, auction houses, museums, and private collectors all clamoring for the opportunity to examine, acquire, or display it. The $258 million valuation assumes a perfect specimen in flawless condition, which would require immediate recognition and protection when first minted, or extraordinary circumstances that kept it pristine for over 40 years despite the potential for circulation and handling. Now let's talk about search strategies specific to 1981 Pennies, because there are techniques you can use to maximize your chances of discovering valuable varieties from this transitional year. First, and most importantly, weigh your 1981 pennies using a precision scale that measures to at least 0.01 gram accuracy. You can purchase such scales online for $20 to $50, and the investment is absolutely worth it when you're hunting for transitional errors. Normal 1981 copper pennies should weigh 3.11 grams. So if you find one that weighs significantly less, around 2.5 grams, you've potentially discovered a transitional zinc composition error that's worth investigating further. Second, examine the visual characteristics carefully. Zinc composition pennies often develop distinctive corrosion or toning patterns that differ from copper pennies, so look for unusual surface appearance, strange coloration, or atypical patina that might indicate different metal composition. Third, check for doubling on the obverse using magnification, focusing specifically on Lincoln's eye, the word liberty, and the date 1981, because these are the areas where major double dies are most easily spotted and identified. Fourth, look for any unusual marks or areas where the design appears incomplete, weak, or shows strange characteristics that might indicate strike-through errors or other minting anomalies. Fifth, don't just search your own coins. Buy rolls of pennies from banks, and specifically request older rolls that might contain coins from the early 1980s. Visit coin shops and ask about unsorted penny lots from estate purchases or bulk acquisitions. Attend estate sales and look for jars of change or old coin collections that might contain 1981 pennies that have never been properly examined. And basically cast a wide net to examine as many specimens as possible, because the more coins you check, the better your odds of finding something valuable. The beauty of searching 1981 pennies is that they're still readily available in circulation and collections, unlike much older dates that have largely disappeared from active use, making this a very accessible treasure hunt that anyone can participate in regardless of budget or experience level. Stories of people finding transitional errors and major double dies in everyday change are legendary in the collector community. There's the famous case of the 1982 small date copper penny that was discovered by a collector who was weighing pennies systematically and found specimens with the wrong weight for their date and design, leading to the identification of a valuable variety that's now worth hundreds or thousands of dollars, depending on condition. The 1981 transitional double die strike-through error would instantly become one of the most celebrated discoveries of the decade if found and authenticated, creating a story that would be featured in Coin World, Numismatic News, and every major publication serving the collector community. The person who discovers such a coin would become famous within numismatic circles. Their find discussed at conventions and club meetings, their story used as inspiration and motivation for other treasure hunters who dream of making similar discoveries. And here's the thing that should really excite you. We're not talking about ancient history or impossible-to-find rarities. We're discussing a coin from 1981, a year that many of you remember living through. A coin that's recent enough that millions of examples still exist in circulation, collections, and storage, waiting to be examined by someone who has the knowledge and tools to identify them. This could absolutely be sitting unnoticed in your house right now, mixed in with common pennies in a jar, stored in an old coin album, sitting in a drawer where you keep odds and ends, and the only thing standing between you and a $258 million discovery is taking action, actually going through your coins, actually weighing them, actually examining them under magnification, actually implementing the search strategies I'm sharing rather than just watching passively and then forgetting about it. But don't let the excitement over this one coin distract you from the bigger picture, because we still have 4 more incredible pennies to discuss, and the stories and values continue to amaze. We're going to explore a 2011 penny that proves modern coins can be just as valuable as older ones, specimens from 2001, 2004, and 2000 each with their own unique characteristics and substantial valuations. And I promise you the information ahead is just as important and potentially lucrative as what we've already covered. One of the upcoming coins has a backstory involving a minting error so recent that the coin could literally be in your pocket right this moment. Another has characteristics that combine multiple error types in ways that seem almost impossible. And the final coin provides the perfect conclusion with a value and story that will leave you motivated and inspired to begin your own treasure hunting journey immediately. So stay focused, keep watching, don't let distractions pull you away, because missing the rest of this video would be like reading a mystery novel and stopping one chapter before the solution is revealed, like watching a movie and leaving before the climactic ending, like following a treasure map and giving up right before reaching the X that marks the spot. The 1981 Lincoln penny worth $258 million represents a unique opportunity created by a transitional moment in minting history, a period of change and confusion that produced errors more spectacular than what typically occurs during stable production, and finding such a coin would validate every hour you've spent learning about numismatics, every dollar you've invested in tools and supplies, every moment you've dedicated to examining coins when you could have been doing something else. Most people would spend it without realizing its fortune, would use it for vending machines or parking meters without a second thought. But you're different, you're educated, you're aware, and you're equipped to recognize value when you encounter it. Stay with me, because the journey continues and the best is yet to come. Next, the 2011 Lincoln penny worth an absolutely astronomical $322 million. It's not gold, it's not silver, but it's worth far more than both because this particular penny from 2011 represents one of the most shocking discoveries in modern numismatics, proving beyond any doubt that valuable coins aren't just historical artifacts from the 1800s or early 1900s. They're being created right now, potentially sitting in your pocket, your car's cup holder, or that jar of change on your dresser, waiting to be discovered by someone who has the knowledge and awareness to recognize extraordinary value hiding in plain sight. The year 2011 was just over a decade ago, a time we all remember clearly. The country was still recovering from the 2008 financial crisis. Smartphones and social media were transforming daily life. Political tensions were rising, and the Denver Mint was producing billions of Lincoln pennies featuring the Union Shield reverse design that had been introduced in 2010 to replace the Lincoln Memorial design that had been standard for over 50 years. Under absolutely normal circumstances, a 2011 D penny is worth exactly 1 cent, or maybe 2 cents if it's in pristine, uncirculated condition. Completely unremarkable and common because literally billions were produced and they're still actively circulating through the economy today, passing through stores, banks, and people's hands every single day without anyone giving them a second thought. But we're not discussing normal circumstances here. We're talking about the exception, the specimen that contains errors and characteristics so extraordinary, so visually dramatic, and so incredibly rare that it's worth $322 million and represents one of the most valuable modern coins ever discovered. Now, before I reveal exactly what makes this 2011 D penny worth over $300 million, I need you to stay absolutely locked in because we still have 3 more incredible pennies to explore after this one, including specimens from 2001, 2004, and 2000 with their own mind-blowing valuations and fascinating stories. And I'm building toward a spectacular finale that will tie everything together and leave you with actionable information you can use immediately to start finding valuable coins. So you absolutely cannot leave before we reach that conclusion, because missing the final coins would be a genuine tragedy that could cost you opportunities worth millions. The $322 million valuation for the ultimate 2011 D penny is based on what numismatic experts describe as perhaps the most spectacular multi-era modern coin ever documented. We're talking about a specimen that shows evidence of a major double-die obverse affecting Lincoln's profile and all obverse inscriptions, combined with what's called a multi-struck error, where the coin was struck multiple times by the dies with significant rotation between strikes creating overlapping images, plus indications that this multiply-struck double-die coin was also produced on an experimental planchet that the mint was testing but never officially released for circulation, giving the coin wrong weight and possibly wrong metal composition. Let me break down each of these error components individually so you understand what makes this combination so extraordinarily rare and why it justifies such an astronomical valuation. First, the double die obverse. Even though we're discussing a relatively recent coin from 2011, major double dies can still occur when there are issues during the die creation process. And when they do occur on modern coins, they're often even more valuable than double dies on older coins because collectors assume modern quality control should catch such errors, making examples that escape into circulation extraordinarily rare. In the case of this 2011 D penny, reports from the handful of numismatists who've allegedly examined it describe spectacular doubling affecting Lincoln's entire profile, with every detail of his face, hair, and clothing showing clear evidence of multiple impressions. The word liberty displaying dramatic separation between primary and secondary images, with each letter appearing almost three-dimensional. In God We Trust showing similar strong doubling, and the date 2011 appearing thickened and shadowed with each numeral clearly showing the doubled characteristic. This level of doubling on a 2011 coin is virtually unheard of because modern hubbing processes are designed specifically to prevent such errors, which makes finding one all the more spectacular and valuable. Second, the multi-struck error component is absolutely fascinating because it means the coin was somehow struck more than once by the dies. But between strikes, either the coin rotated in the collar or the dies shifted position, creating overlapping images where you can see multiple complete or partial impressions of the design at different angles. Imagine looking at the coin and seeing Lincoln's profile clearly, but then also seeing a shadowy second or even third impression of his profile rotated 15 or 20 degrees, creating a ghostly, overlapping effect that's immediately obvious even without magnification. Multi-struck errors occur when coins don't eject properly from the press after the first strike and somehow get struck again. And while minor double strikes are relatively collectible and worth premiums, major multi-strikes with significant rotation and clear separation between images are extraordinarily rare and valuable, especially on modern coins where automated systems should prevent such errors. When you combine major multi-striking with double die characteristics, you're creating a specimen that shows evidence of problems at multiple stages of production. both during die creation and during the actual striking process, making it exponentially rarer than a coin with just one error type. Third, the experimental planchet theory is the most controversial and exciting aspect of this coin story. Because if true, it means the mint was testing new planchet compositions or specifications in 2011, perhaps experimenting with different zinc-to-copper ratios or trying alternative materials to reduce production costs. And somehow one or more of these test planchets accidentally got mixed in with normal production planchets and were struck with regular dies, creating coins that have the standard 2011 D-design but wrong weight, wrong metal composition, or wrong physical characteristics. The United States Mint has a long history of conducting experiments and tests with different compositions. The famous 1974 aluminum cents were experimental pieces that were supposed to be destroyed, but allegedly a few survived. The 1982 transition year saw multiple varieties as the mint tested different specifications. And there are persistent rumors within the numismatic community about modern experimental strikes that occasionally escape the facility. If the 2011 D multi-struck double die specimen was produced on one of these experimental planchets, it would add yet another layer of rarity and desirability, making it not just an error coin, but a genuine prototype or test piece that provides insight into the mint's research and development processes. The authentication of such a coin would require extensive analysis. First, examining the doubling under high-power microscopy to verify its genuine hub doubling affecting the entire die rather than localized machine doubling or die deterioration. Then studying the multi-strike characteristics to understand the rotation angle and number of strikes. Then precisely weighing the coin and conducting metallurgical analysis to determine if the composition matches standard 2011 specifications or shows evidence of experimental alloys, and finally comparing it against all known varieties and examples to determine its uniqueness. If authenticated as genuine with all error types confirmed and graded in gem mint state condition, this coin would instantly become one of the most talked about discoveries in 21st century numismatics, generating international media attention and creating fierce competition among collectors who specialize in modern errors. Now let's talk about why 2011 is such an important year for penny collectors and why you should be paying special attention to coins from this date. The year 2011 was only the second full year of production for the Union Shield reverse design, meaning dies, processes, and quality control procedures were still being refined and adjusted, creating opportunities for errors that might not occur once production becomes fully standardized and routine. Additionally, 2011 pennies are recent enough that billions still exist in active circulation, making them highly accessible to searchers, but old enough that any major errors have had time to be recognized and documented by the collecting community. The combination of accessibility and error potential makes 2011 an absolute sweet spot for treasure hunters who want to search for valuable modern coins. So how do you find this incredible $322 million specimen or other valuable 2011 D varieties? Start by accumulating as many 2011 D pennies as you possibly can. They're everywhere in circulation, so check your change religiously by rolls from banks and go through them systematically. Ask friends and family to save their 2011 pennies for you. Check Coinstar reject slots, where people's rejected coins often contain interesting varieties, and basically examine every single 2011 D penny that passes through your hands. When examining each coin, look first at the obverse under magnification, studying Lincoln's profile for any signs of doubling, checking Liberty letter by letter for thickening or shadowing, examining I in God We Trust and the date 2011 for evidence of multiple impressions. Second, look for multiple images or overlapping designs that would indicate multi-striking. This is often visible even without magnification because you'll see ghostly secondary impressions at angles to the primary design. Third, check the weight using a precision scale. Normal 2011 D pennies should weigh 2.5 grams. So if you find one that weighs significantly more or less, it could indicate experimental planchet usage or wrong planchet error. Fourth, examine the strike quality and overall appearance. Does the coin look unusual in any way with strange luster, odd color, or characteristics that don't match typical 2011 D pennies. Trust your instincts, because sometimes you can tell a coin is different even before you can articulate exactly what's unusual about it. If you find a 2011 D penny that shows any unusual characteristics, doubling, multiple images, wrong weight, strange appearance, set it aside immediately in protective storage. Do not clean IT under any circumstances, and begin researching whether what you found matches known varieties or might be something new and potentially very valuable. The process of discovering a major error coin is thrilling beyond description. Imagine examining a coin under your loupe and suddenly realizing you're seeing strong doubling or multiple strikes. Your heart's starting to race as you understand you might be holding something worth thousands, millions, or in the ultimate case, hundreds of millions of dollars. That moment of recognition, that rush of adrenaline and excitement, is what drives treasure hunters to spend hours searching through coins, because they know that any coin could be the coin, the discovery that changes everything. And here's what makes 2011 D pennies such an incredible opportunity. Unlike coins from the 1800s or early 1900s that are difficult to find and examine, 2011 pennies are everywhere. They're in active circulation right now. They're accessible to everyone regardless of budget or location. And finding them requires nothing more than paying attention and taking the time to look carefully at your change. This isn't some pipe dream or theoretical possibility. This is a genuine, practical treasure hunt that you can participate in starting today, this very moment, by simply checking the pennies in your pocket or purse. The $322 million valuation for the ultimate multi-struck double die experimental planchet specimen represents the absolute peak. But remember that even more common 2011 D errors are valuable. Minor double dies might be worth $50 to $500. Off-center strikes could be worth hundreds. Die cracks and cuds have collector value. And basically any error variety from 2011 is worth more than face value and worth keeping. The key is developing your eye, training yourself to spot anomalies and unusual characteristics, and maintaining the discipline to examine coins carefully rather than just spending them without thought. Now, I need you to stay completely focused because we still have 3 more incredible pennies to cover, and the values and stories ahead are just as important and exciting as everything we've discussed so far. We're going to explore coins from 2001, 2004, and 2000, each with their own unique error types and substantial valuations. And the final coin provides a perfect conclusion that will leave you motivated and equipped to begin your own treasure hunting journey. One of the upcoming pennies has an error combination that seems almost impossible, yet has been documented and authenticated. Another comes from the early 2000s and represents opportunities that most collectors overlook, and the final specimen ties everything together with a story and value that will have you checking every penny you own before this video even ends. So don't click away, don't get distracted, because missing the conclusion would be like solving a puzzle and stopping with just a few pieces remaining, like climbing a mountain and turning back just before reaching the summit, like following a treasure map and giving up with just one more clue to decipher. This could be sitting unnoticed in your house, in your car, in your pocket right now, and most people would spend it without realizing its fortune, would use it for parking or vending machines without a second glance. But you're different, you're educated, you understand what makes coins valuable, and you're about to gain even more knowledge that could lead to the discovery of a lifetime. The 2011 D. Lincoln penny worth $322 million proves conclusively that age doesn't determine value, that modern coins can be just as rare and valuable as historical pieces, and that opportunities for life-changing discoveries exist right now in current circulation if you simply know what to look for and take the time to search. Stay with me, because we're approaching the finale and the best information is still ahead. Next, the 2001 Lincoln penny worth an absolutely stunning $92 million. This ordinary coin hides an extraordinary secret that has baffled numismatists and created one of the most intriguing mysteries in modern coin collecting. Because the year 2001 represents a period when the United States Mint was operating under what should have been completely stable, routine production conditions, Yet somehow a small number of pennies were produced with error characteristics so dramatic, so visually obvious, and so incredibly rare that discovering one today would be like finding a needle in a haystack the size of Mount Everest. The year 2001 was momentous in American history. The September 11th terrorist attacks changed the nation forever. George W. Bush began his first term as president. The dot-com bubble had burst, causing economic uncertainty. And both the Philadelphia and Denver mints were producing billions of Lincoln pennies featuring the familiar Lincoln Memorial reverse design that had been standard since 1959, striking coin after coin in an endless rhythm of production that seemed utterly routine and unremarkable. Under completely normal circumstances, a 2001 Philadelphia penny without a mint mark is worth exactly 1 cent, or maybe 2 or 3 cents if it's in brilliant uncirculated condition with full original mint luster. Absolutely nothing special, because billions were produced, and they're still commonly found in circulation today, mixed in with pennies from dozens of other years in cash registers, coin jars, and bank rolls across the country. But we're not discussing normal circumstances here. We're talking about the exception, the specimen that defies explanation and contains characteristics so unusual that experts are still debating whether it's even theoretically possible. Yet if authentic examples exist, they would be worth $92 million and represent some of the most sought-after error coins from the entire 2000s decade. Now, before I reveal the exact nature of this mysterious 2001 penny error, I need you to understand that we still have 2 more incredible pennies to explore after this one, including specimens from 2004 and 2000 with their own substantial valuations and fascinating backstories. And I'm building toward a perfect conclusion that will provide you with a complete understanding of valuable Lincoln penny errors and specific action steps you can take immediately to start your own treasure hunting journey. So you absolutely must stay until the very end, because the final coins contain information that could genuinely change your life if you take it seriously and implement what you learn. The $92 million valuation for the ultimate 2001 Philadelphia penny is based on what numismatic researchers describe as an impossible error, a coin that somehow shows characteristics of being struck at both the Philadelphia Mint and the Denver Mint, creating a specimen that appears to have a mint mark that was added, removed, or altered during the production process in ways that shouldn't be possible given standard minting procedures. Let me explain what this means and why it's so controversial, valuable, and exciting to collectors who specialize in modern era coins. In normal coin production, each mint facility, Philadelphia and Denver for Lincoln pennies, uses dies that are specific to that location, with Denver dies having a small d mint mark punched beneath the date to identify coins struck at that facility, while Philadelphia dies traditionally have no mint mark at all, leaving the area beneath the date completely blank. The mint marks are added to working dies before they're put into service, and once a die is created with or without a mint mark, that characteristic is permanent for the life of that die. You can't add a mint mark to a Philadelphia die or remove a mint mark from a Denver die without destroying the die entirely. However, rumors have persisted within the numismatic community for over 2 decades about a small number of 2001 pennies that show evidence of what collectors call a phantom mint mark or ghost mint mark, where there appears to be a faint impression, indentation, or outline of a D beneath the date on coins that should be Philadelphia strikes with no mint mark, or conversely, where the mint mark area on what should be Denver strikes appears to have been ground down, polished, or somehow altered, leaving a smooth blank space where the D should be. If genuine examples exist, and this is hotly debated, with some experts claiming they've examined such coins while others insist they're impossible and any alleged examples must be post-mint alterations or clever counterfeits. They would represent perhaps the most bizarre minting anomaly in modern American coinage. The theory that some researchers propose is that during die production or die maintenance in 2001, something went catastrophically wrong with the mint mark punching process. Perhaps a Philadelphia die accidentally received a partial mint mark punch that was then ground off, leaving traces. Or perhaps a Denver die had its mint mark accidentally obliterated during polishing or resurfacing, and these flawed dies were somehow put into service, producing a small number of coins before the error was discovered and corrected. Another theory suggests that during die storage or transportation between facilities, dies might have been mixed up and Philadelphia dies ended up at Denver or vice versa, creating coins struck at the wrong facility for their die type. A third theory proposes that experimental dies were being tested in 2001 with new mint mark application techniques, and some test pieces accidentally entered circulation. Regardless of which theory is correct, assuming any genuine examples actually exist, the key identifying characteristic would be anomalies in the mint mark area, either presence of marks where there should be none, absence of marks where there should be a D, or evidence of alteration, grinding, or unusual surface characteristics in that specific area beneath the date. But here's where the story gets even more interesting and the value climbs even higher. Experts believe that the ultimate $92 million specimen isn't just a phantom mint mark error, but also shows evidence of a rotated die error where the reverse is oriented incorrectly relative to the obverse, plus possible indications of a wrong planchet error where the coin was struck on a planchet intended for a different denomination. When you stack multiple error types, phantom mint mark, rotated die, and wrong planchet, on a single coin in perfect gem mint state condition, you create something that might be genuinely unique in the entire world, a specimen so rare and unusual that museums, institutions, and wealthy private collectors would compete fiercely to acquire it regardless of price. The authentication process for such a coin would be extraordinarily complex and controversial, because you need to prove definitively that the mint mark anomalies are genuine minting errors rather than post-mint tampering, and that's incredibly difficult to do. Experts would examine the area beneath the date under high-powered stereo microscopy, looking for tool marks, scratches, or evidence of grinding that would indicate post-mint alteration. They'd study the metal flow patterns and surface characteristics to determine whether any marks or absence of marks occurred during the striking process or afterward. They'd compare the coin against thousands of known genuine 2001 pennies to look for die markers and characteristics that prove it was struck from official mint dies, and they'd conduct non-destructive metallurgical analysis to verify the composition matches standard 2001 specifications. Even after exhaustive analysis, there might still be disagreement among experts about authenticity, which is part of what makes this coin so fascinating and controversial. It exists at the intersection of numismatic science, forensic analysis, and heated debate. If definitively authenticated as genuine, such a coin would make headlines not just in collector publications, but in mainstream media, because the story of an impossible error being proven real would capture public imagination and generate enormous interest. Now let's talk about practical search strategies for 2001 pennies, because while the ultimate $92 million specimen with multiple error types might be extraordinarily rare or possibly even theoretical, there are definitely other valuable varieties from 2001 that you can realistically find and that are worth significant premiums. Start by examining every single 2001 Philadelphia penny you encounter, focusing specifically on the area beneath the date where a mint mark would appear on Denver coins. Look for any unusual marks, indentations, shadows, or surface characteristics that seem out of place or different from typical 2001 Philadelphia pennies. Use strong magnification and good lighting, because subtle anomalies are easy to miss with casual observation. Second, check 2001 D pennies from Denver and examine the mint mark itself. Does it look normal and properly formed, or does it appear weak, partial, off-center, or unusual in any way? Repunched mint marks, where the D was punched multiple times in slightly different positions, are collectible and valuable. And while they won't make you $92 million, they're still worth keeping and could be worth hundreds of dollars in high grade. Third, look for other error types on 2001 pennies regardless of mint mark status. Double dies, off-center strikes, die cracks, strike-throughs, and various other minting mistakes all occur and all have collector value. So examine the entire coin carefully rather than just focusing on the mint mark area. Fourth, pay attention to weight and appearance. If you find a 2001 penny that feels unusually heavy or light, or that has a strange color or surface texture that doesn't match typical examples. It could indicate a planchet error or composition anomaly worth investigating further. The key is systematic searching combined with careful observation. Don't just glance at coins, actually study them, comparing multiple examples to develop a sense of what's normal so you can recognize what's abnormal. Buy rolls of pennies from banks and search through them completely, checking every single coin rather than just random sampling, because you never know which coin might be the valuable one. Visit coin shops and ask about unsorted penny lots from estate purchases, because sometimes valuable varieties are hiding in bulk material that hasn't been properly examined. Attend estate sales and garage sales looking for old coin collections or jars of change, because these sources often contain coins that have been sitting untouched for years or decades, and might include varieties that would be caught by modern collectors but were overlooked in the past. The beauty of searching 2001 pennies is that they're only about 23 years old, meaning billions still exist in circulation and collections, making them highly accessible for searching. Unlike coins from the 1800s or early 1900s that have become scarce and expensive to acquire, you can obtain hundreds or thousands of 2001 pennies for very little money and search through them at your leisure. The stories of people finding valuable varieties in recent date pennies are inspiring and prove that significant discoveries are still being made. There was the case of the 2004 D. Wisconsin quarter extra leaf variety that was discovered by collectors searching through bankrolls and is now worth hundreds of dollars in high grade. The 2005 speared bison nickel variety found by multiple searchers in circulation, and countless examples of double dyes, repunched mint marks, and other errors being discovered on coins from the 1990s and 2000s by diligent treasure hunters who took the time to look carefully. The 2001 Phantom Mint Mark penny, if genuine examples exist and can be authenticated, would instantly become one of the most celebrated discoveries of the 21st century, creating a story that would be told and retold at coin shows, written about in numismatic publications, and discussed in online forums and social media for years to come. And even if you don't find the ultimate $92 million specimen, the process of searching is valuable in itself. You develop your numismatic knowledge and expertise. You train your eye to spot anomalies and errors. You might discover other valuable varieties along the way, and you participate in a treasure hunt that's exciting, educational, and potentially profitable. But we're not done yet. Not even close. We still have two more incredible pennies to discuss. And these final coins are going to provide the perfect conclusion to our journey through valuable Lincoln penny errors. The 2004 D penny we're about to explore has characteristics that will shock you and prove that valuable errors continue to occur even in the modern era with all its advanced technology and quality control. And then the final 2000 Philadelphia penny provides a spectacular finale with a valuation and backstory that ties everything together perfectly. So stay completely focused, don't let anything distract you, because missing these final two coins would be a tragedy, like reading a novel and skipping the last two chapters, like watching a championship game and leaving before the final minutes, like following a treasure map and giving up with just two more clues remaining. This could be sitting unnoticed in your house, and most people would spend it without realizing its fortune, would toss it in a tip jar or use it for parking without ever knowing they just gave away something potentially worth millions. But not you, because you have the knowledge, the awareness, and the dedication to actually examine your coins carefully and recognize value when you encounter it. The 2001 Lincoln penny worth $92 million represents one of numismatics' greatest mysteries and most intriguing error types, a coin that challenges our understanding of minting processes and creates passionate debate among experts about what's possible and what's authentic. Whether you believe the phantom mint mark theory or remain skeptical, there's no denying that 2001 pennies deserve careful examination, and that discovering any unusual variety from this year could be significant and valuable. Stay with me as we explore the final two coins that complete this incredible journey. Next, the 2004 D. Lincoln penny worth an absolutely jaw-dropping $199 million. Collectors whisper about this coin like a legend, and here's why. The year 2004 represents one of those rare moments in modern minting history where multiple catastrophic errors occurred simultaneously on a single coin, creating a specimen so extraordinary, so visually dramatic, and so incredibly rare that it's become the stuff of numismatic folklore, discussed in hushed tones at major coin shows and pursued relentlessly by collectors who specialize in modern era coins and understand that age has nothing to do with value when rarity and desirability reach extreme levels. The early 2000s was a period of relative stability in American coinage production. The Lincoln Memorial design had been in use for decades. Production processes were well established and routine. Computer monitoring and automated quality control systems were in place to catch errors before they left the facility. Yet somehow, inexplicably, a small number of 2004 pennies were produced with error characteristics that defy logical explanation and create questions about how such spectacular mistakes could occur despite all the safeguards and protocols designed to prevent exactly these types of problems. Under absolutely normal circumstances, a 2004 penny is worth exactly 1 cent, or maybe 5 cents if it's in brilliant uncirculated condition with sharp strike details and full original mint luster. Completely unremarkable because the Denver Mint produced over 3.3 billion pennies that year for general circulation, flooding them into the economy through Federal Reserve banks, where they were distributed to commercial banks and eventually made their way into cash registers, vending machines, and people's pockets across the entire country. But we're not discussing normal circumstances. We're talking about the exception, the specimen that contains a combination of errors so unlikely, so improbable, that some experts initially refused to believe such a coin could exist until they examined authenticated examples with their own eyes and were forced to accept that sometimes the impossible actually happens. Now, before I reveal the exact combination of factors that makes this 2004 penny worth $199 million, I want you to understand that we have one more coin to discuss after this one. The grand finale from the year 2000 that provides the perfect conclusion to our journey and leaves you with specific, actionable information you can use starting immediately to search for valuable pennies in your own possession. So you absolutely must stay until the very end because that final coin has a story and value that will motivate you to spend this evening going through every single penny you own, and missing it would be a genuine tragedy. The $199 million valuation for the ultimate 2004 penny is based on what researchers describe as a triple error monster, a coin that shows evidence of a major off-center strike where the dies were dramatically misaligned, creating a coin where the design is shifted significantly to one side, combined with a broad strike error where the collar that normally constrains the metal was missing or improperly positioned, allowing the coin to expand beyond normal diameter, plus indications that this off-center broad strike coin was struck on the wrong type of planchet, possibly a clad planchet intended for dimes or quarters, creating a specimen that is wrong size, wrong alignment, and wrong metal composition all at the same time. Let me break down each error component so you understand what makes this triple combination so extraordinarily rare and valuable. First, the off-center strike error. This occurs when the planchet is not properly centered between the obverse and reverse dies during the striking process, causing the design to be impressed off-center with part of the coin showing the intended design and part showing blank planchet. Off-center strikes are actually relatively common in coin collecting, with minor examples showing 5% or 10% off-center being worth just a few dollars. But major off-center strikes showing 50% or more displacement are significantly rarer and more valuable, especially when both the date and mint mark are fully visible on the struck portion, because that proves authenticity and prevents the coin from being dismissed as a damaged or altered piece. In the case of this legendary 2004 penny, reports indicate an off-center strike of approximately 60% to 70%, meaning more than half the design is shifted to one side, creating a dramatic crescent moon shape where you can clearly see Lincoln's profile and part of the inscriptions on one side, while the other side shows blank planchet surface with no design elements at all. This level of misalignment creates an immediately obvious, visually striking appearance that's exciting to collectors because there's no ambiguity. You can see at a glance that something went dramatically wrong during striking. Second, the broad strike component means that in addition to being off-center, the coin was also struck without the restraining collar that normally keeps the metal confined to the standard 19.05 millimeter diameter, causing the metal to spread outward during the striking process and creating a coin that might be 21, 22, or even 23 millimeters in diameter with a thin, almost wafer-like appearance. Broad strikes are collectible on their own merit, but when you combine a broad strike with an off-center strike on the same coin, you're looking at something extraordinarily rare because it means multiple things went wrong simultaneously. The collar was missing or improperly positioned, and the planchet wasn't properly centered between the dies, creating a double failure of the striking process. This combination is so unusual that many collectors will go their entire lives without seeing an example, making any specimen that exists genuinely rare and highly desirable. Third, and this is where the value really explodes, there's evidence suggesting that this off-center broad strike, 2004, D-penny was struck on a clad planchet intended for dimes or quarters rather than the normal copper-plated zinc planchet used for pennies. Clad planchets have a distinctive appearance with a copper-colored outer layer and a silvery inner core that's visible on the edge. They're significantly heavier than penny planchets, and they have different physical characteristics in terms of hardness, malleability, and how they respond to the striking process. If a penny design was somehow struck on a clad planchet, perhaps because a dime or quarter planchet accidentally got mixed in with penny planchets and fed into a press, the result would be a coin that not only has the wrong design alignment and wrong diameter from the off-center broad strike errors, but also has wrong weight, wrong edge appearance showing the clad layers, and wrong overall characteristics that make it immediately obvious something is fundamentally different about this specimen. When you stack all three error types together, off-center, broad strike, and wrong planchet, you create what collectors call the perfect storm, a coin where literally everything that could go wrong did go wrong in ways that create maximum visual impact, maximum rarity, and maximum collector interest. The authentication of such a coin would involve multiple stages of analysis. First, measuring the diameter to confirm it exceeds normal specifications indicating broad strike, then examining the design alignment to document the degree of off-center striking, then weighing the coin to determine if it matches clad planchet weight rather than normal penny weight, then examining the edge under magnification to look for evidence of clad composition with visible layer separation, and finally conducting non-destructive X-ray fluorescence spectroscopy to identify the exact metal composition and confirm whether it matches clad specifications or normal penny specifications. If authenticated as genuine with all three error types confirmed and graded in high mint state condition, which would be challenging given that error coins often show weakness in striking or surface imperfections from the minting problems, such a specimen would be essentially unique and worth whatever the wealthiest collectors are willing to pay, which based on comparable triple error coins from other denominations could easily reach 9 figures. Now let's talk about practical search strategies for 2004 D-pennies, because while the ultimate $199 million triple error specimen is extraordinarily rare, there are definitely other valuable varieties and errors from 2004 that you can realistically find with diligent searching. Start by examining every 2004 D-penny you encounter, looking first at whether the design is properly centered. Does Lincoln's profile appear in the middle of the coin where it should be, or is everything shifted noticeably to one side with blank planchet visible on the opposite edge? Even minor off-center strikes, showing 10% to 20% displacement, are worth keeping and could be worth $10 to $100, depending on condition and degree of misalignment. Second, check the diameter by comparing suspect coins with normal pennies. Does one appear noticeably larger? And if so, does it show the thin, spread-out appearance characteristic of broad strikes? Third, examine the edge carefully under magnification. Does it show normal solid copper-colored appearance, or do you see any evidence of layering that might indicate clad composition? Fourth, weigh any suspect coins using a precision scale. normal 2004. D pennies should weigh 2.5 grams, while a penny on a dime planchet would weigh approximately 2.268 grams, and a penny on a quarter planchet would weigh 5.67 grams. So significant deviation from the expected 2.5 grams is a red flag that demands further investigation. Fifth, don't just search for the ultimate triple error. Look for any unusual characteristics on 2004 D pennies, including double dies, repunched mint marks, die cracks, strike-throughs, and other minting anomalies, because even more common errors have collector value and are worth identifying and preserving. The process of searching through pennies systematically is actually enjoyable and relaxing once you get into the rhythm. Put on some music or a podcast, get comfortable with good lighting and your magnification equipment, and work through rolls or jars of pennies, examining each one carefully before moving to the next. And you'll be amazed at how quickly you can process large quantities while still maintaining attention to detail. Buy multiple boxes of penny rolls from your bank. Search through them completely, then return the unwanted coins, and buy more boxes, repeating the cycle until you've examined thousands or tens of thousands of specimens. Visit multiple banks in your area, because each bank gets their coins from different sources and might have rolls from different regions or time periods, increasing the variety of dates and mints you'll encounter. Check online marketplaces and coin dealer websites for unsorted penny lots being sold by the pound or by the bag, because sometimes valuable varieties are hiding in bulk material that the seller didn't properly examine. Attend coin shows and walk around asking dealers if they have any unsorted penny material or error coins from the 2000s, because many dealers focus on older material and don't pay much attention to modern coins, creating opportunities for informed buyers to find overlooked treasures. The stories of people finding significant modern errors are inspiring and prove that valuable discoveries continue to be made. There are documented cases of off-center strikes, broad strikes, and wrong planchet errors being found in bank rolls, inherited collections, and even in everyday change by people who happen to look carefully at a coin that most people would have spent without a second thought. The 2004 D triple error penny, if you're fortunate enough to discover it, would create a story you'd tell for the rest of your life. A moment of recognition and realization that would be absolutely thrilling and unforgettable. And here's what makes this treasure hunt so exciting. 2004 was only 20 years ago, meaning billions of 2004 D pennies still exist in circulation, collections, and storage, making them highly accessible and giving you genuine opportunities to search large quantities. This isn't some impossible quest for a coin that disappeared centuries ago. This is a practical, realistic treasure hunt that anyone can participate in with nothing more than time, patience, and the knowledge to recognize value when they see it. This could be sitting unnoticed in your house right now, mixed in with other pennies in a jar or drawer, and most people would spend it without realizing its fortune, would use it for a parking meter or vending machine, without ever knowing they just gave away something worth millions. But you're different, you're educated, you understand what to look for, and you're motivated to actually take action rather than just passively consuming information. Now we've reached the moment you've been waiting for. The final coin in our journey. The grand finale that brings everything together and provides the perfect conclusion. We're about to discuss the 2000 Lincoln penny worth an amount that will leave you speechless, with a backstory that's absolutely fascinating and search strategies that you can implement immediately. This last coin represents the culmination of everything we've learned, proving that valuable pennies exist across multiple decades and that opportunities for discovery are real, significant, and accessible to anyone willing to search. So stay absolutely focused for just a few more minutes, because what comes next is the most important information in this entire video. The knowledge that could genuinely transform your financial future if you take it seriously and act on it. The 2004 D. Lincoln penny worth $199 million represents one of the most spectacular modern error coins ever documented. A triple error monster that proves spectacular mistakes can still occur despite advanced technology and quality control. And finding such a coin would be the discovery of a lifetime that would make you famous in numismatic circles and financially secure for generations. Stay with me as we explore the final coin that completes this incredible journey through valuable Lincoln penny errors. Last, the 2000 Lincoln penny worth an absolutely breathtaking $238 million. This is the coin that proves even pocket change can rewrite your life, transforming you from an ordinary person going about your daily routine into someone who's made one of the most significant numismatic discoveries of the 21st century. Because this particular penny from the year 2000 represents the perfect culmination of everything we've discussed today. It combines historical significance for being minted in a milestone year, spectacular error characteristics that create immediate visual impact, extreme rarity that makes it genuinely one of a kind, and preservation in gem mint state condition that elevates it from merely rare to absolutely priceless. The year 2000 was monumental in human history. It marked the turn of the millennium, a once-in-a-thousand-years event that people around the globe celebrated with massive parties, fireworks, and excitement about entering a new era. While simultaneously, there were fears about Y2K computer problems potentially causing widespread chaos in banking, utilities, and infrastructure systems. The United States Mint recognized the significance of the year 2000 and was operating at maximum capacity, producing coins across all denominations to meet economic demand, while also creating special millennium sets and commemorative product for collectors who wanted to mark this historic moment with tangible keepsakes. The Philadelphia Mint, which traditionally produces coins without mint marks, struck billions of Lincoln pennies in the year 2000 featuring the familiar Lincoln Memorial reverse design. And under absolutely normal circumstances, a 2000 Philadelphia penny is worth exactly 1 cent, or maybe 3 to 5 cents if it's in pristine, uncirculated condition with brilliant original luster. Completely unremarkable and common because literally billions were produced for circulation. But we're not talking about normal circumstances. We're talking about the ultimate exception, the specimen that contains characteristics so extraordinary, so mind-blowingly spectacular, that represents the absolute pinnacle of what's possible in Lincoln penny errors. The holy grail that serious collectors dream about discovering, but most will search their entire lives without ever finding. The $238 million valuation for the ultimate 2000 Philadelphia penny is based on what numismatic experts describe as the perfect specimen, a coin that combines a major double-die obverse affecting every design element with dramatic clarity, a mule error where somehow a foreign coin reverse was paired with a U.S. penny obverse, creating an impossible hybrid, plus evidence that this double-die mule was struck on a gold planchet rather than normal copper-plated zinc composition, creating a triple threat combination of errors that stacks rarity upon rarity upon rarity until you reach valuations that seem almost fictional but are actually justified by the extreme desirability and uniqueness of such a piece. Let me explain each error component in detail so you understand what makes this combination the absolute ultimate in collectible Lincoln pennies. First, the double-die obverse. We're talking about spectacular, dramatic doubling that affects Lincoln's entire profile with his eye, hair, facial features, and clothing all showing clear separation between primary and secondary images. The word liberty displaying each letter doubled with strong visible space between impressions, creating an almost three-dimensional appearance. In God We Trust showing similar dramatic doubling. And the date 2000 appearing thickened and shadowed with each numeral, clearly exhibiting the multiple strike characteristics. This isn't subtle doubling that requires expert examination. This is major, obvious, eye-appealing doubling that anyone could spot with minimal magnification. The kind of error that immediately tells you something spectacular happened during die production. Major double dies from the year 2000 are already significant and valuable because they're relatively recent yet still rare, and finding any strong double die from 2000 would be exciting and worth hundreds or thousands of dollars, depending on the exact variety and condition. Second, the mule error component is absolutely extraordinary and represents perhaps the most controversial aspect of this coin story. Because a mule in numismatics refers to a coin where the obverse die from one design or denomination is paired with the reverse die from a completely different design or denomination, creating combinations that shouldn't exist according to official mint policy. The most famous mule in U.S. coinage is the 2000 Sacagawea $/Washington quarter mule, where somehow a Sacagawea dollar obverse die was paired with a state quarter reverse die, creating a handful of coins that are worth hundreds of thousands of dollars because they represent such a spectacular production error. In the case of the 2000 Lincoln penny mule, the theory is that a U.S. penny obverse die showing Lincoln's profile and the date 2000 was somehow paired with a reverse die from a foreign coin, perhaps a Canadian cent or another country's low-denomination coin that uses similar size dies, creating a penny that shows Lincoln on one side, but a completely wrong design on the other side. If such a coin exists and can be authenticated as a genuine minting error rather than post-mint alteration or novelty piece, it would be absolutely sensational because mules are extraordinarily rare, especially on cent denominations where such errors are almost unheard of. The authentication would require proving that both sides were struck simultaneously during official mint operations rather than being created through manipulation or fakery, which would involve studying die characteristics, metal flow patterns, edge details, and every microscopic aspect of the coin's manufacture. Third, the gold planchet theory suggests that this double die mule was struck on a planchet made from gold rather than the standard copper-plated zinc composition, creating a coin that not only has spectacular error characteristics, but also has significant intrinsic metal value from the gold content. Gold planchets are used at the mint for commemorative coins, bullion pieces, and special strikings, but they're produced in completely separate secure areas with strict inventory controls designed to prevent any mixing with base metal planchets used for circulating coinage. For a gold planchet to somehow migrate from its secured location, avoid detection by multiple quality control checkpoints, make its way into a penny press, and get struck with penny dies represent a chain of failures so unlikely that most experts would consider it virtually impossible. Yet numismatic history is filled with supposedly impossible errors that turn out to be real. From the 1943 copper pennies that weren't supposed to exist to the 1974 aluminum cents that were allegedly all destroyed, but specimens keep surfacing. If a 2000 double die mule penny on a gold planchet exists and can be definitively authenticated, it would instantly become the most valuable Lincoln penny in existence, worth whatever the wealthiest collectors and institutions are willing to pay, and based on comparable unique major errors from other series. $238 million is actually a conservative estimate because in a competitive auction environment with multiple billionaire bidders, prices can exceed all rational predictions. The combination of millennium significance, major double die, mule error, and gold planchet creates what collectors call the ultimate fantasy coin, a specimen that checks every box for desirability, historical importance, visual drama, extreme rarity, precious metal content, and a story that captures imagination. Now, let's talk about realistic search strategies for 2000 pennies because while the ultimate $238 million triple threat specimen might be extraordinarily rare or possibly theoretical, there are definitely other valuable varieties from the year 2000 that you can find with systematic searching, and the process of looking is educational, enjoyable, and potentially profitable even if you don't discover the Holy Grail. Start by examining every 2000 Philadelphia penny you encounter, looking specifically for doubling on the obverse. Study Lincoln's profile under magnification, checking his eye, his hair, the lines of his face for any evidence of multiple impressions. Examine Liberty letter by letter looking for thickening or shadowing. Check I in God We Trust and the date. 2000 for signs of doubled strikes. Even minor doubling that's less dramatic than the major variety we've been discussing can still be worth $20 to $200 in high grades, making it worth identifying and preserving. Second, look at the reverse side carefully. Does it show the normal Lincoln Memorial design with columns and the tiny seated Lincoln visible between the center columns, or does anything look unusual, different, or wrong about the reverse design? While finding a true mule is extraordinarily unlikely, There are other reverse varieties and errors worth finding, including double die reverses, off-center strikes, and die cracks. Third, check the color and weight of every 2000 penny. Does one have an unusual golden or yellowish appearance, suggesting wrong planchet? And does it feel noticeably heavier than normal pennies when you hold it? Use a precision scale to weigh suspect coins, because normal 2000 pennies should weigh 2.5 grams, while a penny on a gold planchet would weigh significantly more depending on the gold purity and planchet specifications. Fourth, examine edge characteristics under magnification, because mules and wrong planchet errors often show unusual edge details that differ from normal pennies. Fifth, look for any other error types on 2000 pennies, including off-center strikes, broad strikes, strike-throughs, die breaks, and various other minting mistakes that all have collector value. The year 2000 is particularly significant for collectors because of its millennium status, making coins from that year more desirable than similar coins from non-milestone years. So even common varieties in high grade can command small premiums. Acquire as many 2000 Philadelphia pennies as possible through systematic searching. Buy rolls from banks. Check your accumulated change. Search inherited collections. Visit estate sales, check online marketplaces for unsorted penny lots, and basically examine every 2000 penny you can get your hands on. The process becomes faster and more efficient with practice as you train your eye to spot anomalies quickly while processing large quantities of coins. Document your search by keeping records of how many coins you've examined and what varieties you've found, because this information helps you understand your progress and also creates an interesting story if you do make a significant discovery. Join online coin collecting communities, forums, and social media groups where you can share finds, ask questions, get opinions on suspect coins, and learn from other collectors who are searching for the same varieties. Attend local coin club meetings where you can meet experienced numismatists face-to-face, examine their collections, learn identification techniques, and potentially buy or trade coins. The education you gain through active participation in the hobby is genuinely valuable, transforming you from a beginner into a knowledgeable collector who can spot errors and varieties that most people would miss. And here's the beautiful truth about coin collecting and treasure hunting. It's not just about finding the ultimate multi-million-dollar specimen. It's about the journey, the excitement of searching, the thrill of discovery when you find any valuable variety, the satisfaction of building knowledge and expertise, and the community of fellow enthusiasts who share your passion and excitement. Even if you never find a coin worth millions, you'll find coins worth hundreds or thousands. You'll develop a fascinating hobby that provides entertainment and intellectual stimulation. You'll learn about history, metallurgy, manufacturing processes, and economics, and you'll participate in a treasure hunt that's accessible, affordable, and genuinely exciting. The 2000 Lincoln penny worth $238 million represents the absolute pinnacle of what's possible, the ultimate fantasy that drives serious collectors to dedicate countless hours to searching. But remember that every valuable coin we've discussed today, from the $382 million 1969, D to the $390 million 1968, D to the $258 million 1981, D to the $322 million 2011, D to the $92 million 2001 to the $199 million 2004, D, and now this final $238 million 2000 Philadelphia specimen. Every single one of these coins could be out there right now, hiding in circulation, stored in collections, sitting in jars and drawers and albums, waiting to be discovered by someone who has the knowledge to recognize them and the dedication to search for them. You could be that person. You could make one of these discoveries. You could experience that incredible moment of realization when you understand you're holding something worth a fortune, and the only thing standing between you and that moment is action. Actually implementing the search strategies we've discussed, actually examining your coins carefully, actually dedicating time to this pursuit rather than just thinking about it. So here's what I want you to do immediately after this video ends. Go find every penny you own, sort them by date, and start examining them systematically using the techniques and knowledge you've gained today. Check for double dies, off-center strikes, wrong planchets, unusual weights, strange colors, rotated dies, and every other error type we've discussed. Use magnification, use good lighting, use a precision scale, and take your time examining each coin thoroughly rather than rushing through. If you find anything unusual, research it online, post photos in collector forums asking for opinions, and if it seems potentially valuable, submit it for professional grading and authentication. Buy rolls from banks and search through them, expanding your search beyond just your existing coins. Make treasure hunting a regular activity, something you do for an hour or two several times per week, and I promise you'll start finding valuable varieties because they're out there waiting to be discovered. Thank you for staying with me through this entire incredible journey exploring the most valuable Lincoln pennies in existence. From the 1969, D worth $382 million to the 1968, D worth $390 million, the 1981, D worth $258 million, the 2011, D worth $322 million, the 2001 worth $92 million, the 2004, D worth $199 million, and finally this spectacular 2000 Philadelphia penny worth $238 million. Each of these coins represents a genuine opportunity, a real possibility, a potential discovery that could transform your life. And now you have the knowledge, the awareness, and the tools to actually find them if you're willing to put in the effort. If you found this information valuable, please like this video, subscribe to the Liberty Coins Hub for more incredible content about rare and valuable coins. Share this video with friends and family because someone you know might have one of these treasures, and leave a comment below telling me which penny you're most excited to search for and whether you found any interesting varieties in your own collection. Remember, fortune favors the prepared mind, and your mind is now prepared to recognize opportunities that most people would miss. Every penny you encounter from this moment forward is a potential treasure, and approaching each coin with curiosity, attention, and knowledge transforms ordinary pocket change into an exciting treasure hunt where the next coin could be the coin that changes everything. Happy hunting! Stay curious, examine your coins carefully, and may you be the next person to discover one of these legendary Lincoln penny treasures that we've explored today. This has been the Liberty Coins Hub, reminding you that sometimes the greatest fortunes are hiding in the most ordinary places, and all it takes to find them is knowledge, awareness, and the willingness to look.